Hello everyone. So my name is Tushar Adhao and I'll be the instructor for this course. And in this course, you will learn how to build modern web application using Rails 8 with Turbo from Hotwire and set up your environment using Docker and Devcontainers. We will start from the basics. So don't worry if you are new to Docker or Turbo. Step by step, you will understand how to use Turbo Frames, Turbo Streams, and Turbo Drive to build fast real-time applications. Along the way, you will also learn how to create a complete Rails project, all while working inside a dev container, making your step easy and reproducible. Whether you are a beginner or someone looking to explore the latest in Rails, this course is designed to be hands-on, practical, and project-driven. So get ready to build modern Rails development. Hello everyone and welcome to the course. In this quick video, I will walk you through what we will be covering step by step so you know exactly what to expect. I have broadly divided this course into three sections. First one covers Docker and Dev containers. So we will start by understanding what Docker is and why it's so powerful for developers. You will learn how to install Docker, use Docker files and configure Docker Compose. Then we will move on to dev containers, a super handy way to create consistent development environments. We will go over setup, customization, and some handy tips to kickstart your project inside a dev container. Second section is focused on Hotwire and Turbo deep dive. We will explore Hotwire and its powerful trio, which is Turbo Drive, Turbo Frames, and Turbo Streams. Each part is explained in depth with practical examples that show how they improve your Rails app without the need for JavaScript. Third section is focused on implementing these knowledge into a project. So we will build a real Rails 8 project using what we have learned. We will start with project setup and basic migrations, then style it with Bootstrap. From there, we will integrate Turbo feature into the app so you can see everything working together in action. By the end of the course, you will be confident in building modern dynamic Rails app using Hotwire and Docker the smart way. And one more thing, I will be continuously adding new content and improvements to keep this course fresh and helpful as tech evolves. So stay tuned and keep checking back for updates. Let's get started. Hello everyone. So in this video, we will explore more about what is Docker, how do we use it, and even why do we use it with some practical examples. So let's begin with what is Docker. So Docker is an platform which enables you or helps you in packaging out your libraries. It also helps you in deployment process and it gives you an isolated environment to run your application. So let's look at them each in a practical example. Let's say I have laptop which has Windows operating system and I wish to build a project, maybe a website which is on Rails. So I will use a Rails framework to build this application. Second is I want a database as a Postgres, and probably I also want some more libraries like Redis for my background jobs. And yeah, there are more libraries to it. These libraries I will have to install one by one, and it is a possibility that while installing these libraries, I might face some issues because I was also working on some other projects and I had some libraries installed for those projects which might clash up with these library versions. So probably Rails that I want is on Rails 7 or 8, probably Postgres on Postgres 14. So these versions might clash up with another versions or maybe another libraries. That is one issue that might come across. So one is I can face one library issue. Second is let's say I'm teaching you something. I am teaching you on Mac environment where I'm building this project and installing these libraries. You are on Windows operating system and you might also want to duplicate the same thing, like install the same libraries and stuff. But there are high chances that you might come across some dependency issues, or project might not work as like it is working on my machine. So your environment and my environments are different, so there are huge possibilities that the way it is working on my machine might not work on your machine. So different environment is another issue that I might face. Also, while deployment, there are different environment phases. Like, we have a development environment where we build our application. We have production environment in which the website goes live and it is available for everyone. There is also few more environments like testing environment where all the testing will happen, and a staging environment. So before going on to production, any modification, any feature, we test out it on a testing environment or a staging environment or on both. So there are different environments. That means we have our application running on different machines. So all these environments should ideally be in a sync, so that if something works on my machine, it should also work on a development environment or a production environment, ideally. Since we are using different instances or maybe different machines to run this application in different environment, there is a possibility that something which is working on my machine might not work on different environment. So while deployment, there are also few more issues. Like, let's say my website has a lot of traffic on it and I want to distribute the traffic. Probably, how should I distribute it with some load balancers? So let's first understand it with, let's say if I have Docker installed in my machine. So second scenario is, I install a Docker. Now initially I only since I had an Windows operating system, I could build the application in Windows operating system only, or I can also go with virtual machine to have something like Linux operating system on my machine. But virtual machine is very bulky, so as an alternative to it, we have Docker, which is very lightweight. And let's say I also want this application on a Linux operating system, I can do that with Docker. So Docker also provide me which operating system to choose, and now some libraries that I want to install on top of it. So I want these libraries, I can install it with Docker onto a Linux operating system. Let's see how it solves these issues. So for example, first is library installation. For library installation, how Docker works, let's see first. So how Docker works here is, basically we have an Docker registry where usually we have all of these libraries. An example of that is Docker Hub is one example, from where we have these predefined images. Using Docker, we can pull these images, and basically we define that which version of library we want. For example, I wish to go ahead with Rails probably 7, Postgres 14 and other versions of library. Along with that, I want to build it in an Linux operating system. So my project should work on a Linux operating system with all these requirements. So I can do all of these things by defining everything in a Docker. Now we define probably everything in a Docker file or a Docker Compose file, what data should be shared and all those instructions that should be there for my new project using Docker. So I can package it out and use it in my machine. Let's say I wish to give this to you to work on or to other developers. What I can do is I can create my own custom image which will have all of these libraries installed, and I can share it with you. Now, my library installation thing is sorted, that it will come up and I can install it in a package, so I don't have to install it separately. Second is environment. Since Docker runs in an isolated environment and it is also lightweight, so that's why even if you are on a Windows machine or I am on a Mac machine, since I am using Linux as a operating system for me, both of us can have a same or consistent environment using Docker. So these things are also improved since we are on a consistent environment. Since this environment issue is solved, even if I'm on a testing or a staging environment or on a production environment, whatever there is on my development environment, I can have the same environment on any other, such as testing or production environment. I can have the same conditions there also. So, and for there is also one term for isolated running these images. We call it a container. So container is a instance of running images. That means in an isolated environment, when these images, when we run these images, we call it, we are running it in container. So now let's say I mentioned earlier that how Docker can solve something like load balancing thing, how it balances the load. So we can have the same container running on the same instance or machine to balance out load. So we can divide the traffic on a different container to balance out this. I also want to see it or official website of Docker, where what what we can explore here is probably their pricing. Is it free to use or not? So let's see. Yeah, so Docker comes up with their own set of pricing. So let's say if I want to learn Docker and want to use it for myself only, I can use Docker personal plan, where it is free to use and I can learn and I can, develop website for my whatever I'm developing for. Second, it comes with Docker Pro, Docker Team, and Docker Business. Each of them provide features, different features, and yeah, that's a bit about or basic about what Docker is. Since Docker is becoming so much popular, they are planning to probably change their pricing system, where they will add some more limitations to their plans, but it will be effective from probably 1st of March 2025. Though free plan will be there, but there will be some limitations and stuff will be added. So anyways, it's a very good tool, and I personally like it. I have used it in many of my projects, and yeah, that's what Docker is. So yeah, we will explore more things about Docker and install it in our local machine in the upcoming videos. So see you in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video, we will install Docker in our local machine. For that, we will search for Docker, and official website of Docker should also have this Docker desktop, or we can also open this one. Now we scroll down to download Docker desktop. There are different options that are available based on your operating system, and let's say my operating system is Mac, so I will install this Mac Apple Silicon. If you are on Windows, probably you might need to select out of these two. Most probably you will select this ARM64. Now that if you are on Linux, you can also download it for Linux. So once I click on it, it should initiate my Docker to download the package for Docker. I will wait till it gets downloaded. So now that it is downloaded, I can probably click on it and it should give me this, so I can drag this in my application, which should copy the Docker to application, and I think that should be it. And now I should be able to open Docker. It gives me Docker subscription service agreement. Okay. And now it is saying I can complete the installation Docker desktop. The configuration below can be changed later in settings. So I can keep it on the recommended setting and finish it and fill out my password. Oh, it's wrong. Let me fill out it again, and that should give me something like this. So yeah, I can sign in now with my Gmail account here, and I'm now ready with Docker. Hello everyone, in this video we will dive more into Docker world. Let's start with Docker's official documentation. Then we will see some sample projects built on Docker and build a Docker project to get to know more about Docker commands and how to run a container. And so without further ado, let's get started. So let's search for Docker documentation. So maybe a Docker docs, and here on the first side when we click, we get to know more about how can we get started with Docker, guides, manuals and references. So if we click on get started, we can see what is Docker and some basic terms that we use, some commands that we are using in this documentation. So what I'm more concerned about is in the reference tab, where I can see some samples. These are the sample projects built on Docker. So whatever technology I'm searching for, probably I'm searching for Rails or React or any other technology. So let's say if I wish to see the JavaScript sample, I can click on it and see there are these many examples that I can select. So for example, when I select Node.js Redis, it should navigate me to this GitHub page where I can have a look and implement it in my local environment. So how about we build a basic Docker project where we can let's say have a JavaScript file which runs in a node environment. So for that we will have to open a folder. So I have a Docker folder where I can create something like JS test Docker, and I can open it with my code editor. For me it's Visual Studio Code, and once I have it open, let me increase the font here. This should be good, and I can create any JavaScript file. Let's say I create a app.js where I can write some JavaScript code, something like console.log, and I can print like hello, this is a Docker project, and save it. For Dockerizing it, I will just need to create a Docker file, and once I have a Docker file, I can write some code, something like I want first of all to run this app.js. I will need a node image. So let's search for a node image first of all. There are numerous ways we can do this, but first of all let's see how we can search it from Google. So maybe like Docker node image where I can find this Docker Hub registry where I can click on this node official image. There are different tags that I can see right now. These tags are different versions, different operating systems. So each of these tags have different configuration in it. So for example, this Bookworm Slim is Debian operating system. There is one Debian operating system with the code name as Bookworm, and Slim means there are minimal libraries that are there in this operating system. So, and there are many versions of Node available here. For latest one, what I can do is select this latest version. So for example, if I switch to my VS Code editor, here I can type in from nodes latest tag. So I can specify any other tag, but I'm going with the latest one. Next is I can then select my work directory. I can select any work directory. So work directory can be probably test app, and then I can also then I can also select I want basically this app.js in my container. So for that I can simply write copy. So left side is from my local directory and right side is from the container directory. So what do I mean by left and right side is this: select everything from my this current directory and paste it in the Docker container. So basically first dot represents select everything from my local directory, and the right side paste it in a Docker container basically. Next is once this is set, so I want to run this app.js. For that I can write in cmd, and in the square bracket what I want to run is node this app.js file. So I can write app.js. Here in copy command what I am doing is selecting everything from here and pasting it in my work directory, let's say in a Docker container. I can also do something like app.js. So select only app.js and then paste it on the Docker container. That will also work the same way. I can save it. For running this, what I can do is come on to this terminal and probably type in docker command to basically run this Docker file. So I can write something like docker, then I can build this image with a tag name of my node app or maybe my JS app, and then dot. So what basically this command will do is this will build a image in Docker and then we can run it in a container. So Docker build a image that is named or tagged as my node app, and this dot denotes where to find the Docker file. So Docker file is in this directory js test docker. That's what I am telling it, that search this Docker file in the current directory and name it as a my node app. Let's see if we have any errors. It will tell us about what is the error, and if we don't have, it will build the image. So we will wait for some time. It will download the stuffs that are required and it should get ready. Let's wait. So yeah, now that we have it ready, now we can look at how the image will look in a Docker desktop. So let's open up the Docker desktop. Here In the container section, since we don't have any container, we can't see any container, but in the image section we should have this my node app image ready. Now since we have it ready, we can also see it from the terminal, as we can probably search it as docker images, which will let you know about the image that is my node app with a tag latest and the image ID and other information. If we search for docker ps, which should display us about the container, since there is no container running here, it is showing empty. So to run this image in a container, we will have to write docker run. What do you want to run is my node app. So when we press enter, it says hello, this is a docker project. Since it was not a running project, running image, it just displays hello, this is docker, and my guess is the container is not running because there is no continuous process that is going on here. It will just perform the operation and stop running. We can display this container as docker ps, which should not display it because it is not running right now. ps and -a, that is all, will display the container that is ready here, which is which uses the image my node app and the other information related to it. Now let's learn more about it, like edit this file where we have app.js. We can edit it like hello, this is a docker project. Instead of project, I will say this is a app and save it, and again run this docker. Let's say what will it do? Docker run my node app. It is again saying hello, this is a docker project, and I change it to app. It is not reading the changes that I have done in the local directory of app.js. To have docker container read these changes that I have made in a local container or local repository, I can bind it or mount it with a volume of my local. So basically we can use a volume to bind a local repository to a container, so that if whenever we change something in our local repository, it will also reflect in a container. So how we can do that? Let's see. We can type in docker, then we can do something like -v, which is a volume, then give it a path. To left hand side is our local path, so local path is app. Probably I will have to do something like pwd to get the local path, and slash I can give app.js, and then colon. Right hand side will be the file, docker container path. So I can give something like my work directory. Our work directory is test app, so I can say probably test -app and slash app.js. And I should also add a run before the -v. So docker run -v app.js and then test. So before test, I can have hyphen to test app and app.js run. What do you want to run is my node app, and press enter. So now it should give me hello, this is a docker app. Now again let's change it with some more changes like app exclamatory mark here, and save it, and then come back here and again run this one. which should give me the changes that are there in my local repository or local file in this case. So this is about running a single container. Let's say there are multiple containers that I wish to run. For example, to run a Rails application, I will need probably a Ruby installed. Then I can have a backend build up in a Postgres, and I can also have Redis, all of which, if I wish to have it in a different containers, it will be critical to handle it in just a Docker file. So for those configurations, we also need another file, which is Docker Compose .yml file, where we write down all the configurations related to volumes, what network they will be using, what are the things or what are the commands that I wish to learn with them, what are the ports that they can use, and furthermore. So for that, we will be learning Docker Compose, but for now we have a basic application where I have a Docker file, I can write some commands and have it running in my local environment. So let's get to know more about Docker Compose in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this section, I just want to convey that I'm using VS Code as my code editor. So if you see on the VS Code, we have one tab as extension here, and here I can search in Docker extension. So basically it will give me one Docker extension which will help me, and once I have it installed, it will help me in wherever I am typing any commands in Docker file or maybe on a Docker Compose file, it will give me some suggestion, and by that way it will also help me highlighting the Docker file and Docker Compose file. So yeah, it's very helpful tool, and that's what I want to convey. If you also are working on the Docker project, it will be a good thing to install extensions like this, which will help us build projects on Docker. So see you in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video, we will explore how we can deal with multiple Docker containers, and how we can write code in Docker Compose file, and then how we can run it. To explore this, let's take one example. Like I want to load a HTML page onto browser using nginx. So let's configure it with Docker Compose file. So in Docker Hub, let's search for, first of all, nginx. So nginx, it gives me various images. First one is a official image, and other ones are from the verified publishers and with other configurations. So let's go with nginx official image, where I can see different tags again with different configurations and different versions. If we scroll down furthermore, there are furthermore things I can read about it. What I will do is I will open up the folder where I can create this project. So here I can create one more folder which will say something like HTML app, and I can open again this with a code editor, which is VS Code. I'm using VS Code. Here I can create one HTML file. So let's say I create one index.html, and here I can paste some sample HTML. So let's search for a sample HTML code probably, and here we have W3 school, where I can move to probably HTML home, where I can find some sample HTML. I'll copy it and paste it in my index.html. Here I can probably say this is heading with nginx and save it. Next, I need a Docker file where I will pull this image. So docker file. So let's pull the latest image here from nginx, and the tag that I wish to have is, I can choose from these tags, but I want the latest one, so I can go with latest. And then I want to run it on some port. So let's say I want it to run on, basically nginx will run on the ports that are mentioned here. So left side is from my local side, which I will run on 8080, and on right side it will run on 80. So for the better, we want to access it on port 8080 in our local machine, but from Docker side it will get accessed on port 80. So for that I will have to expose that port 80 and save the file. For further configuration, we will need a Docker compose file. So I will create a Docker compose, docker-compose.yml. So here I can specify what are the services that I'm going to use. Services, that means here in this our example I'm using nginx. Let's say I also want to use some database like Postgres here. I can specify that as a service. Again, I wish to use Redis for some reason, I can specify this. All of these will be a separate service. That means all of these will be running in a separate container. So I can specify these here by typing services, and first service, that will be our base service that I want to use here. I can specify it as nginx or web, anything. Next is I want to build the image for it from the current directory. So here I can find the Docker file here, and next I can specify volume for it, which will get all the changes from this index.html into Docker. So let's say I want to have the changes that are there in index.html. If I, let's say, change it after some time while the container for this is running, I can have it live without rebuilding the Docker image for it. So I can specify something like this index.html, which is from our local side, and on the Docker side I want to use this path, basically etc nginx, no, not this one, actually this one, user share nginx html. So here I will specify this index.html, and I also want to specify the port for it. So I will specify here ports, which will be from our local side it will be 8080, and from the Docker side it will be 80, and I can save it. Now I can run this. So for that I will pull the terminal. Here I can type in docker compose to first of all build this, and next I want to run it. So I can do all of them with docker up and build, which is basically first of all it will build the image and then it will start the container. So once I press enter, it will build it and run it. So to have a look at it, we can open up some terminal and see it with localhost port 8080. Oh, my bad. I can't type in here. HTTP, and we can have this is a heading with nginx. So since we have volume configured, we can now change the HTML file here saying this is a nginx app, and then we can save it and reload this page to see this is a NGINX app on the port 8080. So what else we can do with this is we can add nodemon to hot reload it. So without even reloading the page, once we save the file, we can have live reloaded page, and further more explorations can be done. So for this video, we have explored Docker Compose file along with the Docker file. We can also have only the Docker Compose file, which will specify which image to pull. So we will explore more about Docker Compose file in our upcoming videos. So stay tuned and see you in the next video. Hello everyone. Have you ever wanted to work on a project without setting it up locally? Well, let me introduce you to Devcontainers. Main USP of Devcontainer is any project that you are working with Devcontainer works the same on any machine. So in this video, we will first go through some of the documentation of Devcontainers and see the Devcontainer in action. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's start with searching for Devcontainers, and basically it should give me some links that will explain what a dev container is. So first link is from Visual Studio Code, and it explains how we can make use of dev container and how dev container works. So once we have Visual Studio Code installed, we can install one extension called dev containers, and once we have it, what are the benefits that it provides. For example, I open a VS Code. Let me open it. Here I have my Visual Studio Code. Here, once I install the dev container extension with some commands, I can create a container, and we will go through everything. But what makes it special is we can open a bash. We can basically code onto a container with our local Visual Studio Code, and this explains how that works. So once you have Visual Studio Code open on your local system, you can create a container. Basically, when Visual Studio Code creates a container using this dev container extension, it also installs the VS Code server in it, which talks to our local Visual Studio Code editor, so that when this communication is going on, we can directly code on our local, and basically it works on the container, but it gives us a feeling that we are working on a local project, but actually we will be working on a container. So it will be more clear, I hope, when we actually see it in action. There are basically some requirements or prerequisite for using this dev container extension and feature. So if you are on Windows, you need to have Windows 10. If you are on Mac, well, I don't see much requirement on Mac. For Linux, gives you more specification here, where it says Ubuntu 16.04 plus version is enough for working with these dev containers. And then it goes with how we can install it and how we can make use of it. So for that, we just have to open up our Visual Studio Code. I have it open here, and once we have it open here, we can go to the extensions tab, where we can search for dev containers, and once we press enter, it should give me dev container option. This first one is what we want here, dev containers. I can install it. Once I have it installed, I can utilize the feature of it. It says if we can anytime go to this documentation given here, but to utilize it, we just have to press function F1, which should give me this terminal where I can search for dev container, and I can add a dev container configuration file. Before doing that, I want to get into one folder. I want to open this in one folder. This Visual Studio Code is not open on any folder. So let me open it in one folder. So let me close this one, and so let me open this dev container folder in a Visual Studio Code. Here in this folder, let me increase font, and here this folder is empty right now. I can press in function plus F1. Here I can search for dev container, and once I have it, I can select add new dev container configuration files. So once I click here, there are two options: add configuration to workspace and add configuration to user data folder. So this basically says that where do you want to create your container, on the workspace or on the user data. I want to create on this dev container workspace, so I will select this one. Now what do you want to create here? Maybe I want to create a Rails project, or you may be interested in creating something else. Well, whatever you want to create, I can type in. It will give me an basic container, which is, let's say I want to create Ruby on Rails with Postgres. I can go with this. This is one option that it gives. You can create a project or a scratch environment from the options that it has, or you can customize your files. We will get on to that. Customize the file, or in an existing project we can have these dev container feature, but for now I want it from scratch, maybe from Rails, or let's say I want Ruby installed environment. I can do that, but for now let's go with the Rails environment. And here it says it will develop Ruby on Rails, and it will also have Postgres as a other service. So once I press enter, it asks me what Ruby version I want to install. I can go with 3.3 or any other version. Let's go with the default one. Next, is there any additional feature I want? So let's say I want to install Git. I can search for Git, and here I can find Git. If I want anything other than Git, I can search for it and select it. So it also gives me one selected, and if I want to select anything else, I can select that too. Once I'm satisfied, I can click on OK. And configuration, do you want to make any changes into it or keep it default? I just want to keep it default for now. And yeah, depend about if you want that or not. I don't want it for now. This basically tracks the version that you have in your system, and then it helps you to update on the versions of libraries that you have. So I don't want it now, so I will press OK again. And yeah, now it usually takes some time, but yeah, for me, yeah, it's ready right now. On the left hand side, if you can see, yeah, here it says, let me put this even on the left side. So here it says reopen it in a container. If I click on this, it will create a container with the images that I have. So let's just first look at what we have. Here I have create DB user SQL. Then I have which has some DB related stuff. Then I have devcontainer.json, which should have the font size is way too much. Let me decrease it. So this devcontainer.json have some configuration. We will get onto it in a moment. And we have this docker compose and docker file. So when we click on this docker compose.yml, here it has one service which is app, and the second one is DB. So first one should be Rails, which says build the context from this docker file, and second one is Postgres. So in the docker file I should have Ruby installed. So basically this is a base service where we will have Ruby installed, then we have a Rails gem installed on top of it, and it will have some basic command of RVM installing some fixed permissions. Yeah, it has it also creates a user VS code other than a root user, and basically it also allows these domains access the container. Here main file is this devcontainer.json file where all the good stuff will go. We have already covered what is there on the Docker compose file and a Docker file. Well, on the dev container.json file, let me decrease the font again here. In this devcontainer.json file, where I can specify what Docker compose file I will be using, what are the post command I want to use here. When we create a container, it will also refresh this VS Code editor and what are the extensions that I wish to use. Let's say I have some extensions that I'm using. For example, I'm using Docker extension, I'm using Ruby extension, I can use any other extension in my VS Code. I want to carry it forward to some other user who can also use the same extension in his local machine, so that we have the same environment. Whatever environment I have here, he can have the same environment. For that, I can specify what extensions I can use here, so which can go in the features, and basically few more good stuff that we will explore again. So when we open this, it gives me, so there are two ways to open a container. So first is your Docker desktop should be running. So let me check if it is running. So here is my Docker desktop. Here I can see on container section is blank, images section is also blank. Let's go to VS Code and close it for now and open up this terminal, where I will again open up the VS Code editor, which should give me this folder contains a dev container configuration file and reopen it container option, where once I click on it, it will basically say, let me increase the font again, which will basically say connecting to a dev container show logs. Let's wait for it. So what it will do is it will build the image and basically make the container running. So let's see. Yes, I have some images. Let's go to container section. Yeah, I have a container running right now. And if we go back to VS Code, it will open up this or refreshes, or probably it will open up this code editor, though it is running on my local machine, but I can access now everything from the container. For example, I have this dev container folder, but let's open a bash. I can open this one, drag this up, and now if you see, I am on a VS Code workspaces dev container. Let me see a Ruby version that I have. I have Ruby version of 3.3.6. Let me see what Rails version I have. It says I have Rails 8.0.1, though I have not configured or created a Rails project, but I have this gem installed right now. So let's say I wish to open, this is from a container on my terminal, Ruby version. Oh, I have a Ruby version because I'm on Mac, so it is already installed. But let's say, do I have Rails installed? No, I don't have Rails installed. And anyways, Ruby version that is installed is 2.6.10, and the one that we want is from Ruby version 3.3.6. So I don't have to basically type in any command to open a bash for the container. Also, I have Rails and Ruby dependencies there, so I can anyways create a Ruby on Rails project here with Rails new and whatever configuration I wish to give here. So yeah, this is this much easy to configure dev container for a new project. Let's say I want to make some adjustment in my maybe devcontainer.json file or docker file or docker compose file. I can do so, like if I want to have some new libraries while this container is opening, I can do that in a docker compose file. I can customize it to have some network, some volumes, and some more services. I can do that. So yeah, this dev container makes it very easy to configure any project. Now what I can do is I can create any number of Rails project, run it on my container, and that way I don't have to worry about if it will clash with any other versions of my local system, because it will work in an isolated environment. Yeah, it is so easy to configure dev containers. So that's why I like working on a dev container project. And let's explore more of dev containers in the upcoming videos. So see you in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video, we will explore more about dev containers and also see how we can customize it. So let's start the video. So let's begin with creating a new folder where I will name it as test app. So rename this as test app. In here, I want to create a dev container folder. So basically, I want to have dev container feature in this test app. For that, I will create a new folder. So let me rename it by .dev container and enter. Are you sure you want to use dot? Yes, use dot. Here in this .dev container file, I can create new files with the name as devcontainer.json. I can also have docker file. I can have docker compose.yml. So I already have used these files in my one of my project. So let me copy them from there to this folder. So I have one dev container folder where I again have this dev container section where I have these files, so I can copy them and here paste. Once I have them here, I can open this test app in VS Code. So I will open this with the shortcut key code dot and enter. Well, it says it detects that it has a dev container folder here. So it says reopen in container. Well, let me just, yeah, now you can see we have a reopen in container. Here in this dev container file, let me increase the font a bit. Here in this dev container folder, if we can see we have dev container.json, then a docker file and docker compose.yml, and then init.sh. Let's see them one by one. So in my docker file, I have these dev container customized files for creating a new Rails project with some Ruby version. So basically it should have all that is required for creating a new Rails project. So let's see what we have in our docker file. Basically we have a Ruby with some version, and then I want to install some of the dependencies, like I want to install git, curl, and some essential tools that I might require. Next is I'm installing a gem bundler and foreman if needed. I probably don't need it now, but let's go with this configuration. Next, I can set my work directory to some whatever I want. For this configuration, it is set as to-do list. I can change it, but let's keep it as a to-do list for now. Since Rails server runs on port 3000, so I'm exposing that 3000 port. Let's have a look on what we have on a docker compose.yml file. So I should basically have two services. So one is app, and yes, second is DB. So in app service, which should be our base service, I am declaring that build this context and search for docker file, and also giving the docker file path. Next is I am setting a volume and networks so that whatever changes I will do in my local should also reflect in container side. Also in a DB side, whatever data I will save in Postgres DB while my container is running. Let's say I stop it now and rebuild my container. For next time, it will empty out the previously stored data, so it should not do that. For that, I can give it a volume so that whatever data I have created earlier in my earlier session, it should persist and I can use it in the next session as well. So when I rebuild it again, it will have the same data. Next, I am in the DB side. I am basically setting up the environment to set the username, password, and DB name as Postgres. Well, I'm keeping these two services in a same networks. For that, I have this app network which I will define in this network section. And yeah, exposing the port, basic command, environment variables, and again exposing the port here. In the devcontainer.json file, which is a heart of this dev container, I am setting up that Docker Compose file. See here, I'm telling that this is the Docker Compose file. What is my base service? So I'm explicitly saying that app is my base service. Setting up the work directory or workspace folder, which is to do list. I can set it up to any other workspace folder. Now the next instruction that I'm writing is, let's say I have a token, GitHub token installed in my local machine. I want it in a container as well, so I can set it this way. So whenever I call GitHub token, it should have whatever I have in my local as a GitHub token. I can access it in the container as well. Same thing goes with the user. Whatever user I have stored in my local directory should be available in the container. App name, I'm setting it as a static name, which is to do list. And in the customizations, I can also give what are the extensions that I'm using, or what are the extensions that I wish to use in a containerized application. So here I have few applications. Let's see how we can add extensions here. So if I remove one extension and save it, and then go to the this extension tab, and let's say I want to add this Ruby in my project. Let's add this Ruby LSP in the extension section. So I can click on this gear icon, which should give me one option to add to devcontainer.json. I can click on it and that will get added like so. So same goes with git lens. Let's say I want to use this git lens. I will click on this gear icon and add to devcontainer.json. It will add that, and now I can save this file. And that's how we can have these extensions, so that let's say I share this project with you, you can also have the same extensions with you. Next is, once all these services are created, I want to perform a command. For that, I have post create command. Here basically I am calling out this init.sh, whatever is there. Let's execute that. Let's see what we have in init.sh. In init.sh, okay, so we are navigating to this work directory. Next is, we will look out for, do we have gem file in that directory or not. If we don't have gem file, then we will initialize a Rails project. For that, we will first see, do we have Rails installed. If not, let me word wrap this. If we don't have Rails installed, Rails gem installed, we can install the specific version of Rails. Next, we can go for creating a new Rails project. I'm skipping the bundle for now and selecting Postgres as my database. Next, I'm bundle installing and echoing out that my Rails setup has been completed. Let's say I have created a project here and I close the container. Next time when I reopen or rebuild this container, it will search for if I have gem file. Yes, if I have gem file, I have already initialized the project. Next time it will not create a Rails project. Instead, it will just display this message with a Rails application already exists. So skipping the initialization. Obviously, that should be the set. Otherwise, it will create a Rails project every time I rebuild. Once I have this set up, now I don't have that option to click on rebuild in container. So another way to rebuild a container is I can click on Command Shift or Control Shift P and type in dev container. And next is I can rebuild and reopen in container. Before doing that, I want to open up Docker desktop. So I will open this Docker desktop. So here I already have some container. So I will remove this. And once this is removed, let's see, I have some images as well. Let's remove them so that I have a clean slate. And once I have removed it, let's again open the command palette with Control or Command Shift P and then search for dev container and then select this rebuild and reopen in container. Once I select that, it should open the ready dev container. So let's wait for some time till it opens up and open up and see what we have in our Docker desktop. In container section, now it is running. Let's see here. Okay, so it is installing, bundle installing. And in the left hand side, we can see we have dev container as well as some other files. So these are created as part of creating a new Rails project. Once that is created, I should see one message saying Rails 8 application setup completed. Once that is completed, I can go on to config section. So here I have config section. In there I can go to database.yml and let's close this terminal for now. And in the database.yml, let's add in our username and password. So username should be Postgres and password should be the same. Once that is set, in the terminal section, I should be able to run the server. So Rails S on a specific port, let's say 0.0.0.0 and enter, which should give me this URL, which is localhost port 3000. Let's open it. And it says there is an issue connecting to your database with your username password, which is Postgres. So basically, to solve this problem, I think it is related to database.yml configuration that I have written in database.yml. I need to modify them. So if I switch back to in the VS Code, here I have username, password, and I should have a host which is localhost, and I can use this Postgres So it should give me a username which I'm fetching from the basically this variable. If I have this variable Postgres user or Postgres password, otherwise go for Postgres and Postgres. Again, host name should be DB host, or if that if I can't fetch that, I can go for localhost. And the port that I'm using should come from DB port. Otherwise, take it as 5432. These name Postgres user and Postgres password should be mentioned in the docker compose.yml file. So here in the DB service, I have this Postgres user and Postgres DB and Postgres password mentioned. Let's get back to database.yml and let's save this. And once I have this saved, I had to stop the running Rails server. Let's restart the Rails server on again the port 0.0.0.0. Enter. Basically, it should start my Rails server on a port 3000. Let's go back and refresh this page. It says, did you create your data? Oh, we have not created our database. Luckily, we have this option to create database, and once we have clicked on it, I have a database created and I have this neat and clean Rails homepage. So that's how I can configure this dev container in a custom folder. And let's again open up this Docker desktop. So in Docker desktop, I can see this container running. I can again open up the VS Code here, and once we stop this container, before stopping this container, let me just close out this Rails server. And once we stop this should give me some error. Oh, sometime it takes time, so okay. It says cannot reconnect. Please reload the window. I don't want to reload. Just cancel it and close this one. So that's how we can have dev container installed. So now, if I go to the folder, that test app folder, let's open up the test app folder. Here in this test app folder, I can see this Rails project. Well, I can now do modifications in the Rails project. Uh, I can learn new concepts of Rails 8, probably build a website out of it, and share it with my colleagues or friends. Using this dev container, they can have the same environment and all the extensions that I have. And that's how we can customize files from dev containers and create project and process the project and then work on that project. So that's it for this video. Let's explore more in the next video. So see you in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video, I want to discuss about some of the basic concepts that we might require before we move forward in this series of creating various projects with this dev container. There are basically two major things I want to discuss. First is creating any project with dev container. There could be various ways of creating it. First and the easiest way is, let's say if you are working on any dev container project, you can copy that dev container folder and paste it in a new project that you might be that you wish to work. And second way is you can create a new container using VS Code. That is also a quick way to do it, and we will explore that in this video. So the first and easy way to create a new project or a new application is with dev container is to copy. Let me just magnify these folders. Yeah, So the easiest way is, let's say I already am working on this application, and let's say I want to create a new application with dev container. I can easily go in this test app where I can find this dev container folder. I can copy this and go back and create my new application here, maybe create a new application folder here and paste my dev container folder. That way I will have a already compact one dev container folder structure and the file structure. Every file must have been optimized because I might have optimized it in my earlier project. So I will have a ready-made optimized file. I might find these dev container folder online with any other project. So I can copy it from online project. So this is the easiest way. Second easiest way is, for that I will have to open VS Code. So once I have VS Code open, what I can do is I can easily create a new configuration of project. Let's say my requirement is I want Ruby on Rails as a backend, maybe React as a front end, and Git in my new container. So what I can do is press Control Shift P and search for dev container. Once I search for dev container, I will get all the options to create a dev container. Here it says add dev container configuration files. I need a base image. So what should be my base image? It could be Rails, Ruby on Rails and Postgres application. There are some additional options to it. Let's see the additional option that gives me the Ruby version that I want. Along with Ruby on Rails, let's say my front end is React. I want to move forward with React or maybe AngularJS or any other JS framework. For that, I can select a node image. So it will basically have a node image as well as a Ruby image. And additionally, I can go ahead with Git. Let's say I also want Git in my container, so I can go ahead and have select the Git. Let's say I also want some more things, like maybe I want Redis in my Redis server in my container. I can go ahead and install it. Once I have it, I can move forward with OK and move forward with OK, keep defaults, and there are other configurations that I can move forward with. Once I go forward and select everything that is there, it will not right away build everything. It will first of all build everything in a dev container, and once it creates a folder dev container have all those configuration files, you get to optimize it however you want. So maybe you want to add some new extensions, new configurations to that file, you can do so and move forward with rebuilding or building that container and go ahead with your desktop. So this is the second way of doing it. So yeah, that's how you can move with either option 1 or option 2. Another thing that I want to discuss here is each time when you open a VS Code and create a new container or rebuild a new container, you will probably create a new file here. So let's say I'm working on multiple projects. I each time when I open a VS Code, I rebuild a dev container. So each time you rebuild that container, a new container list will be added here, so that when you open this, you will have a lot of containers that you might not be using right now. So you need to make sure you have a clean Docker desktop. For that, what you can do is you can stop, select the ones that you are not using. In my case, I am not using even a single one, so I will select every container here, and once I select it, I can delete it, and it will ask if you really want to delete all. So yeah, I really want to delete these all. And same goes with the images. You can select every image that you are using here and basically delete it. Otherwise, if you wish to keep some of these images, you can keep them. So what it will do is, next time when you rebuild the image, if not already present, then it will download those images for you. So these two tips are very important. One, first one is how to create a project with dev container, and the second one, to make sure you clear unused containers or images from your Docker desktop. Let's explore more in our upcoming videos, so stay tuned. Hello everyone. Have you ever wanted to build a website that is fast, smooth, simple, and on the same side, it is not built up on a lot of JavaScript or any complex framework on the client side? Well, to solve this problem, we have Hotwire now. In this video series, we will explore what is Hotwire and how we can integrate it in a Rails project. To start with, let's dive into explore more about Hotwire from the official website of Hotwire. So let's search for Hotwire on the browser. In the browser, let's go into this Hotwire HTML over the wire. Well, it states that Hotwire is an alternative approach to building modern web application without using much JavaScript by sending HTML instead of JSON over the wire. Long story short, it does not uses much of JavaScript to make the user experience much smoother and fast. So how is Hotwire connected with Turbo and Stimulus? Let's get on to that. So Hotwire is much broader concept which consists of some components like Turbo, Stimulus, and much more. So well, Turbo can also be divided into further more components, like it has Turbo Drive, Turbo Frames, Turbo Steam, which basically use to speed up page changes and form submissions, while dividing complex pages into components or to simulate one page application. Next is Stimulus. Well, Stimulus is also used for making dynamic stuffs on the user end. So let's say you want to hide a button, you want to well, play around and have some dynamic features on your website. Well, you can use Stimulus, which also promotes minimalistic JavaScript concept of Hotwire. Next is native, which is used for building a native mobile applications, and all of these are brought to you by 37 Signals company, which also had some of its products like Basecamp and Hey. Well, you will hear a lot of it from the Rails creator DHH. Well, 37 Signals hero product is Basecamp, which is a project management tool. And next is Hey, which deals with email representation in short. And next product is Hotwire, maybe their next hero product. Maybe. Let's see. So in this video series, we will be covering how to integrate this Hotwire with our Rails application. And in this journey, probably we will learn a lot of things. And we will start with creating a Rails project, integrating Turbo in it. We will see in depth what Turbo is, how we can integrate Stimulus, or what is the need of integrating Stimulus in our Rails project. And furthermore, let's start by creating a new Rails application in our next video. So see you in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video, we will explore more about Turbo. So without further ado, let's get started. So it all started with Turbo Links, which got introduced in 2012, and the basic concept was whole page gets reloaded. It needed some improvements, and that's when Hotwire was introduced. And within the Hotwire, we have our Turbo. So in fact, if we look for Turbo Links, we should have a gem for it. We should have this repo which is no longer in active development because now we have Hotwire's Turbo. But yeah, it was something like this. Let's move on to our Hotwire Turbo. So later on we got new improvements where Turbo is divided into three more sections. One is Turbo Drive, Turbo Frames and Turbo Stream. Turbo Drive makes the navigation from page A to page B much more smoother. So let's say you click on a link and you navigate from one page to another. The navigation feels like a single page application so that we never feel the reload of the page. So the smoother transition comes up with Turbo Drive. Turbo Frame name itself says that we have a frame like structure, like that means a particular section, and that gets dynamically updated. Turbo Stream, we get live stream or live updates using Turbo Stream, but yeah, there is more to it. To get to know more about Turbo, we can click on this learn more about Turbo and go through the handbook of it. It will give you a whole lot of information on Turbo, basically for faster navigation and smoother user experience. We do DOM manipulation in libraries like React.js, Vue.js and such like. So basically how DOM manipulation works and why Turbo is faster than the usual virtual DOM manipulation is, let's understand first what is a DOM manipulation. So let's say we have this page where we have to-do list and some dynamic actions to perform, like we can add a new list, we can delete a list and so on. So for this application to run smoother and in a faster way, how DOM gets manipulated. So DOM is basically a tree-like structure which is easy to read by JavaScript. So basically browser converts your HTML into a tree-like structure with some nodes. So basically like this, when you have a HTML body with h1 tag and p tag, it gets converted into something like this where we have this node of HTML body h1 and p tag, so that whenever changes happen, JavaScript can read this properly and makes dynamic changes into it. There is further more to it, as we have virtual DOM, and all these are for making user experience more smoother, where along with actual DOM we have a virtual DOM which is a lighter version of your actual DOM. So any changes that you need to do, for example you are deleting this list, you are adding new list, will get performed on this virtual DOM first, which is a lighter version of your actual DOM, and then the virtual DOM gets compared with the actual DOM where only the specific part of it will get the changes. For example, when I remove this list, the virtual DOM will get compared with this actual DOM, and since there is this missing node here, only the specific part of it will also get changed, so that to have a faster and more smoother changes on your page. So this is what usual DOM manipulation will work like. And now why Turbo is more faster than this DOM manipulation is because let's understand first how Turbo works. So let's take the same example here. When we use Turbo, usually the process is like we have a selected dynamic area which needs to get replaced. For example, this area that is highlighted with this dashed or dotted line has sections which need some update. For example, I can delete this list, I can add new list item into it. In Turbo, this particular section will get replaced with this HTML view where we have a dynamically added new list. All this happens without even reloading the page, so the user experience is more smoother and it looks like a single page application. So basically when we have HTML, something like this, where we have body with to-do list and some view like list one and a delete button, we wrap it into a turbo frame tag we will be basically replacing this element of the page with our dynamic elements. So since there is no comparison between a lighter version of DOM and actual DOM, we basically have these changes more faster, and that's the USP of Turbo. But there is more to it. Frame is responsible to change this particular section only. Now let's say along with changing this section, I also want to add a notification when I delete or update or add new list. Along with that, let's say I also have a form here where the form also gets reset after I add a new list item. That can be possible easily when we combine both Turbo Frame with Turbo Stream. So when I say Turbo Stream will update this list with a live updates, or I mean stream it, under the hood it uses action cable, but for streaming it live we will have to make those required changes in our model. Let's say if we don't make those changes, Turbo Stream helps Turbo Frame for the dynamic changes. So the combination of Turbo Frame and Turbo Stream makes more wonder than using them separately. So instead of using only Turbo Frame or Turbo Stream, it is more advisable, or it is more easy to use Turbo Frame along with Turbo Stream. So in Turbo Stream we have these actions, like we can do Turbo Stream and then append these to-do list. Same goes with delete. So when I use delete, I can use something like turbo stream dot remove and the list will be deleted. So these are all a basic detail on Turbo, where we have explored what is Turbo Drive, what is Turbo Frame, what is Turbo Stream, and why do we use Turbo Frame with Turbo Stream. To understand more on it, let's implement this Turbo Stream in our to-do list application, and that we can do in the next video. So see you in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video we will be exploring more on Turbo Drive. So let's see Turbo Drive in action. So basically, Turbo Drive is responsible to make the page navigation much more smoother. So when you click on a link and it navigates you to some different page, it will be much more smoother with Turbo Drive. Let's look at it in action. So here in this application, when we use Turbo, on clicking any link, let's say for clicking on the show page, it should navigate me to other page very smoothly. Let's see in depth how Turbo makes it smoother. So let's go back, and on the index page, let's inspect here. In here, when we click on the show button, actually Turbo Drive changes the body instead of the whole page using Ajax to make it look very smoother. So instead of refreshing the whole HTML content, it replaces the body. So let's look at it in action. So let's expand this head and body. So body has some content. When I click on this show button, it keeps the head as is, but the body changes, and we are on right now on the show page, the exact to-do list item. If we again have to look at it from the networks tab, we can go back, reload this page again. Now we can observe from the networks tab, when we click on this show button, so it loads this content where we can look at the header, in which the content type is text HTML. That means the HTML will be produced to directly display on the UI, so you don't have to do much more comparison or any such thing. So you can directly display it on your UI. And if we look at the response is the actual HTML page that we have for the show page. Next feature of Turbo Drive is, let's get back to this to-dos, refresh this page, and let's see if I scroll down to some level. Let's say I scroll down to this much and then click on the show button, I can go back to the same scrolling history, because Turbo Drive stores the page history as a cache. So let's say if I go back, it goes on to the exact section where you left the page. Next is Turbo Drive also gives you various event listeners that you can use and perform any operations. For example, let's say we have this index page, and on the index page when I click on the show button, I should get a pop-up saying, do you really want to navigate to that URL or not? So for doing that, what I can do is add the script, something like this, where the script says that we can add an event listener before we navigate to the next page. We can ask a pop-up, confirmation pop-up, which says, do you really want to navigate away or not? If not, we will stay on the same page. So before moving from one page to another, we can add such add event listener, and let's see if it really works. So let's save this and go back to our application. So first I will have to reload the page, and when I click on this show button, it should really give me, do you really want to navigate away? Oh, it says only navigate away. So I can click on either OK or cancel. If I cancel this, it won't navigate. And if I say, let's say, if I again click on the show and click on OK, it will navigate me to the destination page. So similar to this event listener, which says turbo before visit, we have various event listeners such as visit, on load, before cache, before render, and so on. We can utilize them for various use cases. For example, during rendering, we can again add a customized loader that we wish to display for a custom navigation maybe. So yeah, there could be various use cases of various event listeners. Along with these event listener, we can also implement alternatively the similar feature in Stimulus. Another feature that we can utilize as part of Turbo Drive is we can navigate to the show button, where it should be here. So show button says link to show some path and then class. By default, it gets onto a get request. If I want to move ahead with a post request by clicking on the show or any custom button, I can do so by adding the data field, which will have turbo method as post. Similarly, we can perform the same operation using the script, something like this, where I have a button to replace some content. I can add a script which no need to give a type JavaScript. We can also add by clicking on event listener on the button, in which we can specify to visit some specific page to replace the content or to do whatever operations we wish to do. So next feature is, instead of using these event listener hooks, we can actually use the data attribute to have the confirmation pop-up, something like this. When we delete, we can add data attribute here saying we have data turbo confirm, really do you want to delete this, and we can save it, and we can move back to our Chrome application, reload the page, and let's say when I click on this delete, it should give me, really do I want to delete this, where I can say cancel or I can say OK and delete this particular item. So next feature is, let's say I don't wish to use turbo features in some of my links. So how I can disable turbo drive from those particular links? So for that, what I can do is I can basically go into this particular link. Let's say I don't want to use turbo drive. On clicking show, I can paste in again a data field which will have turbo. Setting it to false will perform the same. If I save it and go back to networks tab and reload this page, when I click on this show page, it should basically reload the whole page just like we do without turbo drive, and basically turbo drive will be disabled there. Alternatively, if I want to disable a drive entire URL, let's say if I have an admin page where I don't wish to use turbo drive, there what I can do is every admin page, let's say it starts with /admin and then the rest of the URL. So basically I don't want to use it for every page that has /admin. What I can do is I can navigate to VS Code. In here, I can open up application.js. So in this application.js, what I should be doing is I can go ahead and add something like this, where I can keep the turbo drive globally enabled, but on specific URL, something like to-dos, I can disable the turbo drive feature. So here, when I save this and go back to my application, reload the page, and in here, when I'm on network page and I click on show button, it will reload the whole page and not use Turbo Drive. Next feature that Turbo Drive provides is once we have Turbo Drive installed, for every link we will have the Turbo feature available. We can disable it for a specific link or for a specific URL, but there is one more pre-default feature that is available is prefetching of the data or the response. So here in our case we have this show application which has nothing, no data field available here. And when we go back to our application and reload this page and go to the networks tab, we can observe that when I hover on the show page, it by default prefetch the data for this link. For example, when I click on this response, I can see that it already is making a call to the show page and taking out the response. So it is very useful when the response time is very high. So whenever I hover on it, it will fetch the data in advance. But let's say if I don't wish to have this feature, so what I can do is I can open up my code and move on to this show page and add again a data field where I will make the turbo prefetch attribute to be false. I can make it true, but I can also make it false. So I can save it and go back to the Chrome and reload the page. Here when I hover over on the show page, now there will be no prefetching of the data. So when I click on the show button, the fetching of the response will happen. So in this video, we have discussed a lot about Turbo Drive. So let's explore more on Turbo in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video, we will be exploring more on turbo frames. So let's see turbo frames in action. To understand turbo frames, what we can do is we can replace this specific table with the edit form and come back to this index page again using turbo frames. So let's see how we can do that with turbo frames. So to implement turbo frames, let's get back to our application. Here in our application, so we need two things. First is which part you want to replace, and when I'm saying replace, it can be we can update that specific part, specific portion. Also we can replace it with some other content. So it depends how we are utilizing turbo frame tag. Now in our case, what we want to do is, let's say we have this table in our index page, we want to replace it with our edit page content. So how we can do that is simply first wrapping it around a turbo tag. So it should be turbo frame tag. Now we need to give it some name, something like let's say turbo frame, or let's give it to do frame replace, and it's a block, so we need to end it after this table. We can end it with end, and we can make the indentation correct and save it. Once we have this, this is the section which needs to get replaced. Now what I want here, let's copy this turbo tag and I want edit page, so I'll go on to edit page. Here I will wrap everything from the edit page. Let's say from here I want to wrap it, and I can end this tag by saying end. Now I can save this. Next part is on which click we want to implement it. So when I click on edit, it should replace the section with this edit page section. So I can go ahead with edit link. So in my edit link, I can add a data attribute to add my turbo frame. So when I click on edit, it will perform the turbo operation. So here I can add data field with turbo frame, and what exactly I want to replace is I want to replace that specific tag which is to do frame replace. I will copy this, go back to edit button, and then paste in here to do frame replace. I can again specify that I don't want to prefetch the data, so I can go ahead and go for turbo prefetch and make it a false. so that I don't want to receive the response on hovering on the button. So I can save this, go back to my application, reload it, and inspect on this edit. When I inspect on this edit, I can see it has a data attribute turbo frame. And if we inspect on this whole table, we can see a turbo frame ID to do frame replace. Let's go on to the network tab first. And when I click on this edit, it performs the operation, but it is so smooth that it looks like a new page. So let's reload this again. So here only the table part should be replaced. So that means the header to dos will stay as is, the new to do link will stay as is. But when I click on to this edit button, it should only replace the table. So when I click on this edit button, let's open this. And when I click on this edit button, the to do's header will stay there and the new to do will stay there. So yeah, it is as easy as that. And in the network tab, I can click on this edit and I can see the response here. This is one way of implementing turbo tag. There could be numerous ways of implementing turbo frame in our application. So in our use case, we have replaced a section with another page. Now we can again update the section. For example, so let's say if we are on the index page and we are improving or adding a new list, we can again reload the specific partial of the page and replace it with the old one so as to utilize a turbo frame feature in that context. Another cool feature that Turbo Frame provides is we can divide our entire page into different sections. For example, if we want to use header as a component, sidebar may be a different component, footer may be a different component, body may be a different component, table section can be a different component altogether onto a page. We can perform so using turbo frames, something like this. So when I, let's say we have this to-do list and we also want to display one more section to this, we can go ahead and add our frame, something like this, where I have id with src as to-do list and 3. So basically we are displaying the show page again here. So what basically this will do is it will get the show content and display it on the index page. So in our case, we are displaying the third item in here. So for displaying it again, we can copy this id and go to the show page. Here the show page is here, and wrap the whole or whatever section you want to wrap it into a turbo tag, which should be something like this, turbo frame tag. And now okay, it should be a Rails syntax, and inside the turbo frame tag we need to give the same id, which should be turbo list frame 1. And then since it's a block, I can go ahead and add a do and then end it something like this. Save this. Now let's get back to the index page and here save this and again go back to our show page. Here reload it. Oh, I have mistake that I have done. So let's get back to our VS Code. Here on the show page, I should be writing turbo. Save it, go back to our browser again, reload it. It should again display a show page content as a component here. So it is loading this particular section by default. Let's say we are having a lot of items here and we want to load them when we scroll to them. So basically do a lazy loading thing. So for doing that, let's add scroller. So we can do that just by increasing the height of this inspect element, and yeah, we can have a scroller now. By default the loading is set to eager load, that means load it on the page reload. We can change it by just navigating to our VS Code. In the index action, we can move to this turbo frame and add a loading element to load it as a lazy loader and then save it. So basically it will only load the specific content for it when we scroll to the specific section where it is situated in the page. So I can go back and reload the page. I can inspect here So basically now we have this table here and nothing below it, just one turbo frame ID and which says loading profile. When I scroll to that specific section, it will fetch the data. As soon as I reach the specific part of it, I can go again on top, but it will stay there. So it will load it when I scroll to it. So basically lazy load it. There is one more additional feature that we can add in here. As let's say we are displaying an image as part of one component, and when the image gets loaded up on the page flickers for some time or for some microseconds, and we don't want those flickering in our page. We can add one more attribute to this turbo frame tag, which says like turbo frame morph true. What it will do is it will stop the flickering and make the image or any content visible in a smoother way than to flicker the page. So once we have this, it will just smooth out our experience page. So when I reload it again and scroll to that specific content, it should not flicker and it should give me a smoother UI experience. So in this video, we have explored a lot from Turbo frames. Let's explore more from Turbo in our next video. Hello everyone. So in this video, we will be exploring more on Turbo Stream. So let's explore the features of Turbo Stream. So basically, Turbo Stream has 9 major actions that it provides. For example, we can append for a specific, so let's say we have a list item and we want to append a new list into it. We can append new item, we can prepend a new item, so we can replace this whole section, we can update the whole section, remove if you want to delete that item, if you want to add something. For example, in this turbo stream tag is given before that turbo stream tag if you want to add something, after that turbo stream tag if you want to add something, or basically we want to refresh the content itself. So these are few actions that we can perform. Along with that, what additionally it provides is for frames we can update a specific frame, but for streams we can update multiple streams. There are various ways to implement turbo stream. For example, we can implement the turbo stream or add turbo stream into our controller to have, let's say for destroy action, if we want to add a turbo stream, we can add the action for it, for example removing the specific item for it. So we can add these streams into our controller, or we can again have something like this turbo stream where we can specifically add something like if you want to append anything, if you want to prepend or add any actions for our specific section. So it depends on your specific need along with how neat we want to do it. There could be other ways of adding turbo streams too, but these are the popular ones that we usually use. Turbo streams are usually used with turbo frames so as to make smoother effects in our application. So for example, in our application, when in our to-dos list, let's say I want to add a new item, I can add this. In this application, we are appending a form to this table. So let's see how this can be performed. On the index page, we have wrapped this table into a turbo frame which is named as to dos. Next, in our controller, when we click on the new button to add a new item, we go on to our new option. Here we add a turbo stream to append our to-dos form partial. When we create that specific item, it should basically go on to this create action. Here it will render that to-do is successfully created, remove the form and append the specific item there. Same way in the update action, when we click on the edit button, it should go on to this edit, append the form, and when we update specific list, we can go on to update action and remove the edit form and replace the previous item with the new to do item. So that's how we can add stream into our application. One more great advantage of using stream is, let's say if I integrate it to broadcast or stream these items, so that if I update anything without any refreshing of the page, some other browser or whosoever is using this website should have updated list without even reloading the page. So basically a live update on his end. We can do that by going on to the todo.rb, our model, and add some syntax, where there could be various ways of adding these syntax. For me, I have added this with after create commit. I am broadcasting this for a to-do list, and then which partial I want to append for, replace for, or remove for. And basically there could be various ways of doing it. For example, a shorthand could be a broadcast to dos. Since I'm using a different controller, a different set of views for this application, I have to specify each and everything. For example, what is the ID that I'm using for my stream, partial that I'm using for that specific action. So another way of doing it is by using the lambda syntax, which is broadcast to do and then the lambda syntax. By performing these, I can go on to index page and add basically this turbo stream from and to do list. Without this integration, we won't be able to make these streaming live. So with that being said, we can move on to our browser, and we can open some other browser here and go on to the same localhost 3000 to do lists. Here I have the same. Let's say if I delete here this content, it should also get deleted live on the other browser. Similar way, if I add a new content here, let's say if I add something to and add some description, and let's create this, and if I navigate back to that incognito browser, I should have the same something to at the same time without even reloading the page. It uses action cable under the hood and makes very easy to integrate action cable with our Rails application. So that's how we have explored Turbo Stream in this video. Let's explore more of Turbo in our next video. So see you in the next video. Hello everyone, welcome back to our Hotwire series, and in this video we will build a Rails application which will be a to-do list app. Later on in this app we will add a Hotwire magic, and to make things even more exciting we will build it on top of Devcontainers so that you and me both are on same environment. So yeah, let's dive in and create something awesome. So to build a Rails application we will first build our dev container, and to build a dev container I'm going to use some of the files that I have used in my earlier projects. So in the test app I will have to first enable the dot extension files. Since I'm on Mac, probably if you are on Windows or Ubuntu system you might not need it, but if you are also on Mac you can type in command shift and dot so that all the hidden files are visible. Here I can see here is my .dev container file, and here I can find some these dev container files. I will just copy this dev container itself and go back, create a new folder. I will name it as to do list, maybe to do list app, and in here I will paste in that dev container, and I will open this to-do list in a code editor, VS Code, and shortcut for opening a VS Code is code dot. Once I have it open on VS Code, it says reopen in container. I will hold on and first see what I have in dev container. I have a name to-do list, so I don't need to change it. Next is Docker Compose app. My workspace folder is to-do list. So if I wish to change it, I can change it to something else since I don't want to change it right now. So I'll keep it as to-do list. My app name should be to-do underscore list. I'll keep it as is. Next is compose.yml. Here I don't want to change anything thing. And next, here it says volume will bind to double dot and slash to do list. I can remove this cached, and in Docker file, I am installing these essentials. Probably I will keep them as is. I might not need this Foreman gem for right now, so probably I will remove it. And work directory is to-do list, expose 3000. I don't need this command. I will save it. In init.sh, I don't think I need any changes here. So yeah, I'm satisfied with my changes now. I can type in Control Shift P, I guess, and then dev container. Rebuild and reopen in containers. That's what I want. Before opening that or clicking on that, make sure you have your Docker desktop open. So I will check if my Docker desktop is still open. If not, I'll have to open it. And here I can see there are some images in container section. I don't have anything running right now. So yeah, I'll go back to VS Code and Control Shift P, again dev container, rebuild and reopen in container. Once I click on it, it should open. User would like to access data, allow. It should open or build that image for me. Once that is built, okay, I'll have to wait for the bundle install. Once that is done, I can proceed. Basically, it will create a Rails project for me, and it has created a Rails project for me, which I'm going to make it work for my to-do list app. Here I can type in Rails dash V, as I have set the work directory to be to-do list. It's to-do hyphen list. Next is I can look at the container from Docker desktop. Here I can see to-do list app container is on, which should have images, Postgres image running for it, and this to-do list app dev container, which should have Ruby installed in a Debian operating system to be more specific. Yeah, so that is, once that is set, what I can do is in the config, I can go to probably database.yml. I will make it so that it is visible. Okay, so in database.yml, I will have to add some more details. So username, then password, then I'll have to add host, then port, and to add this, I will copy this line. I don't need a. Here in username, I can post in what I have set in Docker compose file. Here in DB, I have environment set as Postgres. User should be Postgres, password is also Postgres. I'll go and change this variable to Postgres user, which if they don't get it, you should go for Postgres. Next is I will copy the same thing, paste in here, again here and here. Here I need a password. Again in host, I can go with something like DB host. And in here, I can go with like localhost, not caps, local host. And for port, I can go with 5432. This should be DB port. They don't get it. 5432, go for 5432. I'll save it, and I'll have to now create the DB. If everything is set properly, should be able to create the DB. So we will go with Rails DB create, and yeah, since everything is set properly, are able to create the DB. Once it is created, I can go with Rails S and open the server or run the server on port 0.0.0 and enter. That is fine. We can go ahead and open this in the Chrome on the port localhost port 3000. Yeah, so our Rails application is set. Now I want to add some to-do list functionality into it. So I'll scaffold to-do list into it. First, let's go and open the VS Code. Not the new, not the new one. Open the existing one here, and in here I can stop the server for now. Let's stop the server here with Control C, and let's scaffold to-do list. For that, I can clear that my terminal is clear, and next is I can go with Rails generate scaffold. I hope I'm not misspelling scaffold. Next is I want to build a to-do list, maybe. Yeah, to-do list. When we scaffold to-do list, it should create model view controller, and it should also add the route required for this to-do list. But for that we will have to give it attributes. So for me, I want to give title. Title should be a text field. No, not a text field, it should be a string field. Next, description where I will store that some more detail about this to-do list. Description should be a text field because I can store a lot of things into it. Once that is done, I can go with completed status to be more specific, which will be a boolean field. It can be true or false, whether I have completed my to-do list or not. Once that is set, let me check. It's looking good. I can press enter, and it says to-do list is either already used in your application or reserved by, oh, please choose an alternative name for it. I will go with to do only. Some other name, let's give it a name as to do. Once that is done, so here I see there are some changes in routes. The resources to do's are added. Next is I can see the migration is added, model is added. Then we have some test files and some views are also added. Here I can also see to do controller is also added, test controller is also added, and some JSON JBuilders are also added. I'm concerned about, first of all, let's see what is there in routes. So routes.rb says we can access it with routes to do. Fine with me. Next is let's see it on the browser. We will run the Rails application. So let's run. Yeah, before running a Rails application, probably we should migrate, but no, we will migrate it from browser. So let's run the application Rails. First, let me clear this. Clear Rails s dash b 0.0.0.0. Enter. It should open. Yeah, it should give me error saying you have some migrations to run. Enter. As expected. Next is we will run on pending migration, which should run our migration, and on /to-dos enter should give me this mockup files where I can create now my new to do. Let's give it a name, something, and description to be, I know it's very hard to read, so I'll just make it thing. This this looks good. Next, go ahead by adding a description, maybe something like something something. Okay, something description, and let's keep the completed as false. Yeah, we can give it a default value as false, but let's go ahead with this one. Create to do. Once that is created, it is on show page where it says to do /1. To do was successfully created, title something description, and completed is false. Let's go back to our index page. Index page looks something like this. To be frank, this view is not very great, so we are going to enhance this view. So we will try out some of the CSS tools to enhance the view. I'm planning it to make it as single page application, so let's have only one page where we will dynamically change various sections using Turbo and add some dynamic stuff using stimulus. I'll pause now for this video, and in the next video we will add some CSS tools so that we have some nice view. So let's continue this in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video we will add styling to our application. So without further ado, let's get started. So before moving forward, I want to commit these changes and using it, so that whatever styling I'll be adding, I'll add it in another commit. So for doing that, I will first stop the server, and now I will clear this and make my first commit. So let's just see what I have in git status. I have everything to commit. So first add everything, and next is I can commit saying this is my initial commit with to do basic to do list functionality. So a basic to do's functionality. With that being said, we can move forward with adding our stylings. So I'll do Rails as so let's just run our server with Rails s dash p port 0.0.0.0, and let's go reload the page. It is working fine. Here I have a problem that I don't have much styling and I want to build it as a single page application. So for doing that, we have some libraries that we can include into it. So if we move forward with our VS Code, so in our code we have to-dos controller. So we should have a view list or view folder. Here in app folder we should have a view folder. View folder should have basically application layouts folder where we will store our basic layout of the page, and the main file is application.html.erb. Let me just have a look into it. So in here I have a basic HTML file which has a head and which also has a body. Right now it does not have any fancy thing here. There could be various ways of adding styling libraries to our application. One way could be we can download the library and have it under any folder, maybe a vendor folder, and call it in our application file, this application.html file. Another way could be we can load the library using some CDN URLs, and that's the way we are going to add the styling libraries in our application. So let's say I want to go ahead with any bootstrap or any other library. What I can do is I can move on to our browser, go to this any site. I'm going with this JS delivers website. Here I can scroll down and search for Bootstrap. So when I go for a Bootstrap, it should give me this first option, which gives me some script that I can copy. So basically I can copy this and move to my VS Code. Here I can simply paste that here, save the file. Let's not worry about the indentation right now, and see it on the browser how it looks. I can reload the page, and as you can see, when I reloaded the page, the text font and everything gets changed. I can go ahead with any other library. For example, I can go with Tailwind CSS. So let's say if I go with Tailwind CSS, I can copy this again, follow the same procedure, paste it here, and save it, and see what, after reloading, the font gets changed to something different. Similar way I can go with any other library like simple CSS, or any other library that, or any library that I want to implement. But let's go with Bootstrap. Let's go ahead with Bootstrap one, save it. Bootstrap looks fine. Next is, let's first make the indentation quite how we want. So yeah, let's word wrap it, and I hope here spaces, this looks decent now. Now there are different ways I can go ahead memorize everything from Bootstrap. So what are basically the classes that are being used in Bootstrap? So here I'm using Bootstrap 5.3.3. One way is I can go ahead, Google Bootstrap 5.3 and enter, and I can probably, well, go ahead with Bootstrap 5.3 or any Bootstrap official website. So let's say I open this one, and I can probably go ahead with any examples that it provides. For example, I want to go ahead with Bootstrap 5 table or any format that I want. I can go ahead and search that in the official website of Bootstrap. And the next way I can do is I can go ahead with the VS Code and download the library that is for Bootstrap 5. So I can search for that library in here in the extensions tab. Here I can search for probably Bootstrap 5 quick snippet, or maybe Bootstrap 5 and font awesome snippets. Let's go ahead and install this. Okay, I trust this publisher. Let's just first look at our view. Our view looks something like this. Right now I want this to come somewhere, not stick to the left side. And for doing that, what I can do is in body I can probably go for container. Let's go with the first one, and here let's copy this yield and paste it in between these container. So let's save it and go ahead with our application. It is not very fancy, but yeah, it's not in the very left corner. So let's move forward with adding more cool stuff. Let's get to the VS Code, and here let's search for probably in the to-dos. Let's see how the index file is written. So index file here has a div which has id to-dos, and then to-dos will get rendered here, and that's how, and then we will have a link. Okay, to move forward, let's move ahead with a table structure. So let's have a table first, and inside the table we will have rows which will display each to do list items. So for doing that, let's go ahead and add a table here. I'll search for table. Let's see how the default one looks like. So when I save it and go here, oh, okay. Default one looks not that great, but okay. Can move forward with the default one. Well, here, if I don't like this color, let's see how I can remove. I can probably increase the font a bit here. Okay, so let's see how I can remove this blue color. So let's go ahead with table primary. Let's remove, in when I click on this CLS, it gives me all the class I can remove or add new classes. So if I remove table primary, it will remove the color, so I don't like this color. I will remove this table primary class to remove this color. Let's see how it looks. I'll remove this table primary and save this. Instead of column 1, I need here, let's say, go ahead with title of the to do. Next is description, and after description I can go ahead with maybe if it is completed or not. So let's go with completed status, maybe a question mark, maybe not. Let's first save it and let's just see on the Chrome how it will look like. It will look like something like this: title, description, completed, and here are the things. Okay, I need a button to display on each one to edit it or delete it. So for that, I'll add one more row here and I'll call it actions maybe, or yeah, actions. Save. So basically I have these 4 rows, and for that I'll be needing 4 rows in the T body. When I have it, let's reload it. It will look something like this. Okay, that looks fine. Okay, now let's add a actual value into it. To add actual value into it, the actual code that is running with this to do list, each to do, and then render this to do partial. So let's go in this to do partial. Let's just open this to do partial and let's see. Okay, here we have this div, and under this div we have these contents. So instead of these content, we will be having this tr. So I'll copy this and paste it here, or maybe here for now. And first that first thing that I want is the title, so I'll go ahead and replace this with a Rails code and add a title here. Same thing should go with here, here, and actions, let's just keep it as is for now because I want buttons here. Second option is description, so instead of title, go with description and then complete it. Probably it will, now I guess it will give only true and false. We can go ahead with to do yes or no, but for now I'll keep it as is. So to do completed, and I'll remove this one. We don't no longer need this. Yeah, so in table we ideally should not have a div. Instead of div we can give it a name as tbody or something. For now I'll keep it. Let's just improve it after some time. Here in the static, so I don't need any static thing here. So let's go with rendering the to do, and for rendering it I'll first have to, yeah, copy this, paste here, correct the indentation and end this. Yeah, that should work fine. I should be probably removing this. Okay, let's copy this and let's paste it in our partial. Instead of button, let's go with this link to show this to do. Well, we can add few more things like edit this to do and then delete this to do, but let's go with this first. Next is I don't need this. Remove this and save it. Reload the page. Okay, I have something title, something description, this, and completed false action, show this to do. When I click on this, it will go to this page. Let's focus on and go back to to-dos. Since we want to make it single page application, so first should be maybe show, then edit, and then, so if we wish to go ahead with buttons, we should have 3 elements here. So let's go ahead with this class to show to do, or let's go with only show. Add here class, and we can give class as probably button. We can give further more things. Let's just first go with button and see how this will look. So here when I reload this page, oh, it just, okay, it does not look like a button now. Let's add more classes to it. When I go and select this, inspect on it, I can go ahead with this a tag and add new classes to it. So let's see what are the classes that I have. For doing that, I'll just have to click on this CLS, search for BTN, and what are the classes that I can have is not this one. Okay, or BTN danger, we will use this for delete. Do we have any other option? Okay, this one is also good. Outline info is also looking good, but this outline secondary is also good. Yeah, secondary one, and then button warning for SM, a bit smaller one, so button SM. So let's go ahead with these two, button secondary and button SM. Let's add these here as button secondary and button SM. For show, let's copy and paste here for maybe delete, and I think we also want it for edit option. Let's also have it for edit. For delete, we can go ahead with button danger to make it red, and probably for edit we can go with the same secondary. Let's see how this looks like. Not so nice, but yeah, if I do something like this, it will look fine. For now, yeah, this looks good. Yeah, the links are not what I want here. We can click on this plus icon, which will open up a new terminal. Here I can go ahead with Rails routes, and then pipe grep which one I want. Specifically, I want to dos, so I can go ahead with to dos. Here I can see for edit, I can have edit to do, so I'll copy this and go ahead and paste here edit to dos. For delete one, I will have to go with delete. Just that I want to mention here, I can add data, and in here I can add method to mention that this is a delete one and save it. I'll have to go and add a path here and probably give a to do variable. So this will be a path and to do will be a variable. Reload the page, should show me this. So when I click on edit, it will navigate me to edit. So basically I don't want to navigate to edit, but yeah, let's go ahead with this. When I click on show page, it should go to the show page, and when I click on delete, it's not deleting. Okay, so since this delete is, why this delete is not working, we will figure this out more when we go ahead with Turbo with Rails 8. But for now, to make this delete button to work, what we will have to do is we will have to go ahead with our HTML, and here we will have to first change this link to with button and method. First go ahead here and type confirm. We will add a message like really we want to delete it or not, and next is we can add a method delete method as delete and save it. So what this basically will do is it will, for with button 2 it will create a form for us to submit, and why link 2 does not work is because of the turbo. So we will cover that in turbo section, but for now, since we have button 2 and this method delete, and then we have a data confirm. I'm not sure if this data confirm should be here. Let's just cut this, and probably, yeah, I don't think this data confirm will again work because of turbo, because we should have something else with Rails 8 default configurations. Let's see, I'm not pretty sure this data confirm will work, but let's just keep it as is and move forward with reload this page. And if we inspect this, in the inspect we can see for this delete we have a form where we will be deleting this, and I hope when I click on it, it will delete the content here. So when I click on it, so yeah, it says to do was successfully destroyed, and basically it destroys it. And as expected, that data confirm didn't work out. But yeah, we will cover that link to with why this was not working, and see how uses and all those turbo libraries has to do with link to and button 2 issues. For now, we at least have a table structure where we can list out all our to-do list and have actions on it. Right now, it is not a single page application. So in our next video, we will be converting it so that we will stay on the same page even if we go ahead with editing it, deleting it, or adding a new to-do list. So let's say if I click on new to-do, it will move now to a new page. Edit will have new page and stuff like that. Let's add some dynamic stuff into it using turbo, and let's see how we can add turbo frames and turbo streams into it. So see you in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video we will be saving our progress before we move forward. So let's get it done real quick. So on our terminal, let's just first see what we have in our git status. We have few modifications as we have added some bootstrap. So let's add those in our commit. So let's add them as added bootstrap and modified index page. So once it is done, I can press enter, and that's it. So yeah, let's move forward with our main topic and see you in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video, we will be implementing Turbo in our application. So let's go. So here we have our application running. In this application, we will have to install Turbo first before implementing it in our application. So let me just stop the server, and before installing Turbo, we will have to install another library which will deal with our JavaScript modules. So we have option to go with either import map or esbuild, but since import map is a recommended approach to move forward with Turbo, we will be installing import map. So here I can simply write Rails import map install and press enter. And now we are ready to install our Turbo. So we can similarly write Rails turbo install and then press enter. It will install basically required dependency in our application. What we should be cross checking once it is installed is we can go on to our application html.erb. In here you can check we have this JavaScript import map tags, and additionally we can go with this turbo include tags. Now next thing to look for is search for application.js and see that the turbo rails is imported here, and that's it. Now we can move forward. So since the required dependencies are installed, I can again start the Rails server. So Rails s bind it to 0.0.0, reload the application and see everything is working fine. So let's start implementing Turbo in our application. For that, let's just first see what we have in our index page. So in our index, we have the table structure and we are rendering to do partial here. Yeah, our main goal is to understand Turbo along with completing this to do application. Here, when I click on this new to do, it navigates me to a new page. So if we want to make it as a single page application, what we can do is when I click on this new to do, I can open up a form here. Then I can click on create, which will add a new item to this table. To do so, what we will have to do is when I click on this new to do, a form gets appended to this table. For doing that, there could be various ways of implementing this Turbo feature to this application. For example, we can wrap this whole table in a frame and then append a form to it. Second way of doing it is I can add a ID here, a unique ID, or let's say I can add a to-dos ID here so that to this T body I can append a new row which will be a form. So in our form, so this is our form which is right now in a format of div, but let's say if we want to go for a TRTD structure, since we are appending it to a table, we can convert it something like this, where we are wrapping it into a single TD with a column span of 4, because we have 4 items in it, 1 2 3 4, and then rest of the structure is similar, just that I have wrapped it all into a div so that when we append it to a table, it might look like a new row to it. There is a issue with table structure is that we can't modify a lot of things into table because the form tag can't be implemented into a table as we want. If it is like a div row column structure, we can add a form in any ways, but in a table structure it is quite difficult to mold it and have our custom tags. For example, if we need a turbo frame tag or a form tag into it, so that's why we are not wrapping it in a multiple TD. Instead, we have a one TD tag here so that one TD tag will have one form into it. All of the content will go inside it and then we will end it in that same TD tag. I can save this and go back to my controller. So when I click on this new to do, it will go to the new action. So I will open up the controller. Here in the controller, in my new action, what I want is I want to append that form to that to-dos ID, that which is situated in this index. So this T body will have one more item, or I can say row, appended to it. For doing so, what I can do is here I will render that form using Turbo Stream. So I'll go with render Turbo Stream, which will take array, and inside that array I can simply say that I want to append a partial into it. So a partial should be a form, and I can add locals with parameter to be to do, and this new to do should be passed, and to which item I want to append this. So I will specify it as to do's and save it. This should work only for to do's ID. So it will specifically search for to do's ID and then append our form to it. Let's see how this works. So when I reload this page, and since I have not set prefetch false, so it should work only with the hover. So when I hover on this to do, it will append the form to it. Now we can modify the CSS for this particular form but I'm not getting into lot much into CSS because it is quite time consuming, to be frank, to work with a table structure. Instead, it is very easy to work with row column structures, to specify row column and then append again a new div instead of appending a new trtd structure. But let's go with this flow. Now, I also want a cancel button here. In case if I don't want to submit this, I can cancel it. So for adding that cancel button, I can move on to again my form here. I can copy paste this and add a new link to, which will have blank, or let's give it hash. Next, I can give it a data tag with turbo frame of top. Now, what this underscore top will do is it will refresh the whole page. That means it won't follow the actual frame exchanging stuff. It will just refresh the page. How this will work? When I'm on index page and when it refreshes the page, the form will automatically be disappeared because form is not there. We are just appending it through Turbo Stream. So let's see how it works. When I hover on this new to do, it should have a, oh, it also has a create. Oh, I want to name it as cancel. So save, again reload this page and hover on this new to do, then click on cancel. It should work like that. Now when we create a new item, it should now append to this list and form should get removed when we click on this create button. So when I add a new item into it and click on create will go on to controllers, create action. In here, I am not going to work on APIs, so I can simply remove this JSON. Now here what I can give is, I can give a format of turbo stream and a do block. Now I can add a render. What do I want to render is render turbo stream, again takes an array. First is I want to remove that form, so I will do turbo stream dot remove something. Now I don't have any IDs on that form, so I will add one ID there in the form. In the tr, let's give it an ID of, let's say, to do form. Save here, copy this and go on to our controller and add that ID here, turbo form. Once I remove it, I want to append turbo stream dot append to do's with partial, the new to do partial, and the locals will be to do and @to do. So how this will work is, it will render a partial to do with the new to do items. So in our index, we'll render every to do with this @to do's, but when we go with a single to do that is just created, so using turbo stream, we will append the specific to do's to this t body as a new item, and locals will be the newly created to do item. Now we are doing two operations, so we will separate them with a comma and save it. For else operation, what we can do for now is we can copy this format and redirect to, let's give it a to do's path. Same goes here, and we will give an error or alert of saying to do's. So error in creating to do's. To do, let's give this for now, and refresh this page. Now when we hover on this new to do, it will give us this form, and in this form we can type something to some description, and when I click on this create, it should remove that form and add a new item list to this something to. Great, so far so good. The scope of addition is we can add some errors to that form. For that we can simply replace that form. So to do stream can replace that to do form with a new form, and we can again render that form partial in the else part. Next is, if I now want to delete a item smoothly using turbo stream, we can do so by going on to the destroy action, by commenting out these lines, and we can add just by, let's copy this to save our time and paste it in here. Now I want to remove that specific to do, so I will just add a to do here and save this and then reload the page. Let's add a new delete to do, add some description, create it. Once it is created, we can click on delete, so it will smoothly delete it with turbo stream. Okay, now we will follow the same procedure in the edit. So whatever we have done in the new, we will copy this and paste it in our edit and save it. Now the only change that I see here is we can go on to the form, and here we will have to specify if it's a new action or edit action. For doing so, what we can do is here we can add to do dot new record. If it's a new record, then go with the to do's path, else to do path which will have the specific to do. So basically go on to update action and save it. We will perform the same operation calling this, so I don't want create, I want update when I update it. So I will paste in here the same condition, and if it's a new record, go for create, else show me update, and I'll save it. Go back to my controller, and here instead of appending a new item in a update action, we want to replace the existing one. So for replacing the existing one, what we can do is, instead of append, we can replace it. Replace what? So we want to replace @to do. So why this will work? Because in our to do, we are wrapping it up in a id of to do id, so dom id of to do. So since we already have this id in here, row will be wrapped in a standard format of to do underscore something, so to do underscore 3 or whatever the id is. So since it is in a standard format, we can go on to our controller and do something like turbo stream, replace that specific to do, and it will search for that to do underscore the id that is there, and then replace that to do with our newly updated to do. To work with that, let's reload this page and click on the edit, or maybe hover on this edit. Then I can update it as 123 and then click on update. So once I click on update, it will remove the form and replace that specific to do with the new to do. So yeah, I mean, that's how we can perform the CRUD operation. I don't think we need show anymore, but in case if we want to show a specific, so what we can do is we can replace this whole form with a specific show action, which will have again a cancel or go back button, and we can come back to this index page. If we don't want a hover action here, again we can go on to our index action, and we can anyways specify that we don't want to use the turbo prefetch action. So turbo prefetch, setting it as false, will now won't work. I mean, hovering won't work now, so we will have to specifically click on it, and then the form will come up here. But I like the prefetching sometimes, so I'll keep this true. And render this over onto this and create a new item. So yeah, that's how we can implement Turbo in our application, and it is this much easy. Let's see what else we can do with this application. There are a lot to do, like we can add a error, we can add flash or notice, we can notify the user that hey, the to do has been created successfully again. If there is any error, we can show display error into it, and there is a lot more scope to add new things into it. Okay, there is one last bit that is remaining, is how we can broadcast it. Since we are using Turbo Stream, we can broadcast it to make it, you know, live. The changes will be live for every browser that we are working with. For example, if I change anything here and add something new, a new browser will have the same change. If I delete an item, a new browser without any reload, it will have that same change. For doing so, there is a simple trick, or there is a simple change that we will need to make. Is we can go on to todo.rb. So I'll go for todo.rb, and in here what I can add is I can add one. There could be various ways of adding a broadcast to. For me, I can go with broadcast to and give it a lambda syntax, and then go for an instance of to do and give it a id of to dos. Now I will copy this to dos and then go on to my index page and add one tag here. Let's add one tag here, which will be a stream tag. So I will add turbo stream from, and I'll paste that ID here, which is to dos, and save it. Now I can reload this page. The logs will say that Turbo Streams channel is transmitting the subscription confirmed and it's streaming from to dos. Now to test this, we can open up a new terminal. Let's say we can open up this and add a local host to dos, the same one, and here let's add a new item. Let's say a new item 1, some description, and then create it. It will create a new item in the browser, I mean in the different browser, and let's say even if I delete from here, it should delete it from the other browser. So we can utilize this to broadcast the changes. I find it very easy to integrate broadcasting, or the action cable integration is quite very simple now. So you just have to add few line of code and you are done with this broadcasting with using Turbo Stream. So that's a very cool feature, and see you in the next video.